Okay, I'm going to call the 5th meeting of the 14th Undergraduate Senate to order. I will begin by calling roll. Senator Flores. Here. Senator Rodriguez. Here by proxy. Senator Hayashi. Here. Senator Mac Robbins. Here. Senator Newlander. Here. Senator Jenkins. Senator Jacobs. Senator Ossip. Senator Adams. Senator Abisakara. Here. Senator Pacheco. Senator Perez. Senator Sellinger. Senator Zitzman. Here. Senator Tercios. Senator Menashe. Senator Giesler. Senator Butler. Senator Luthra. Here. Senator Jacob Robbins. Present. Okay. Quorum is met. And we will move on to the adoption of the agenda. This is the current agenda. Is there any discussion on that agenda?
Yeah, can you change the call line founders?
Yes. There's just no comment, is there? Other discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, it will be adopted without objection. Minutes are TBD. Still looking for a clerk, so keep asking your friends for that. Public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none, we'll move to reports from officers. First, the Founders Director Galasso. Do you have a presentation?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. If I haven't met you yet, my name is Emma Galasso. I'm a senior. I have the pleasure of being your Founders Week director for this year. I think the last time I was up here was when I was up for confirmation. So yeah. It's nice to be back and see fresh faces. So once again, thank you for having me. I have a lot of information, so I ask that you all please hold your questions to the end and I'll be happy to answer them. So we announced Founders Day Ball. We announced that last week. So we'll be at the National Air and Space Museum, Udvar Hazy Center in Chantilly, Virginia. This has been on the lowdown since last July, so we're super excited that the word is out. We're monitoring the government shutdown situation, which is kind of be a very realistic situation for us. As you all know, the Smithsonian's are going to open on Tuesday, and they'll remain through when the government's open until February 15th. We are monitoring that situation closely. Bobby and Jacob have been kind of cued in as to what the situation is going to be in the plan of a contingency, and you all have been briefed. The only reason why I'm not saying it to you all is one, we're on a live stream, and two, not all of you have signed NDAs, so I just can't release that information to you all. Ticketing for Founders Day Ball starts tomorrow, so I'll be sliding into your DMs later this evening with reminders on the week of ticketing that's happening this week. We'll be presenting the 2019 Founders Award at the ball as well, a nice new tradition that we just started 2 years ago. It's traditionally been given to an individual the past 2 years, specifically one that has triumphed in times of challenge and paves the way for effective change. This year, it's going to an office on campus, so we're really excited to kind of take the reign on this and give it to that specific office. And you'll have to wait till the ball to find out who it is. Because of the location being more outside of the district, we've kind of upped our bus transportation. Last year and the year before, we've had anywhere between 9 to 12 buses. This year, we have 20 coach buses. So I've met with DC Trails, Public Safety and Parking, Facilities Management and the construction team, as well as housing to ensure that that's a safe and effective process for all students who are going to the ball. We strongly urge students to take the buses. There's also a 25% off lift code, and there's parking at the venue. There's over 400 parking spots, so if you feel responsible enough to drive yourself, you're more than welcome to, but like I said, please take the buses. We're paying for them, and the RHA has so graciously co-sponsored them as well. Additionally, we've worked with ASAC to ensure that students who may have a disability are able to take the buses and feel comfortable on them. They can submit a request to my email, founders@ausg.org, by Friday, February 15th to ensure that their requests are met. Another initiative that we look forward to doing every year that was also started a few years ago is Claude's Warehouse, which is our annual donation drive where students who, one, may not be able to afford different items for the ball, but two, may also just not have them in their closet, can come and shop for an outfit and an accessory or two. That will be open starting February 4th, and it's going to be open 9 times throughout the next coming weeks. We'll be sending an email out to the community on Friday, the 1st, so you'll get more information there. We are still accepting donations. We're low on menswear, so my good men, if you have any suits, vests, whatever it may be, please feel free to donate. If you want to Marie Kondo your closet, I'd really appreciate it. You can drop anything off in the donation box in the MGC information desk. Sylvia Burwell even donated some dresses too, so you can do it as well. She hand-delivered them, which was like a really cool moment. So that's pretty awesome seeing her, engage the community. This year, we're also being very intentional about where these donations go following the ball, especially if they're not being used by students. They traditionally have just ended up in a box in our programming office. So we've been working with the Center for Community Engagement and Service to see what local high schools are doing prom drives, and we'll be donating all of our clothes there following the ball. We want to be very intentional about this, so we're really looking forward to helping those guys out as well. If you want to volunteer to help staff the warehouse, my coordinator, Alexis Kane, sent out an email to all of AUSG to help sign up. Even if you just want to spare a half hour or an hour of your day, it'd be appreciated. Please let me know if you didn't get it and would like to volunteer. So now moving on to Founders Week. We'll be launching the full week of events this upcoming Wednesday. It's kind of a big week for us, so we're pretty excited. Founders Week isn't just going to be 1 week this year. It's going to be 10 days, which we're super pumped for. We have more events, more promotions, more ways to get involved in programming. And to give you a little sneak preview into Founders Week, we have a happy hour rec fit class. We're doing Stuff-a-Claude again, where you can build your own little stuffed Claude's the Eagle mascot, which was a hit last year. We're doing a Founders Birthday Blend signature drink at the Bridge Cafe all week. And then we're also doing a really important event that we are excited to be working on with the Slavery Working Group. And it's going to be discussing how we're reclaiming our founders' vision. Obviously, they created that working group following Founders last year to kind of look into the history of our university's campus in terms of slavery. So we're really looking forward to having that event and having that important conversation. In terms of partnerships overall, we're partnering with the Residence Hall Association, the Graduate Leadership Council, Student Media, and the Club Council. And our overall initiatives, we're doing more on social media to get people pumped and excited, but also to make sure we're effectively communicating all details. We have our Founders website, which we're building out much more than we have in the past couple of years. And then a small detail, which Inori so graciously mentioned before, we've taken away the apostrophe in Founders. This has kind of been a little bit of a debate over the past couple of years. I know it's a small detail, but our cabinet always did something different than development and alumni relations as well as UCM. So we finally decided there is no apostrophe in Founders. It just does not make grammatical sense. So following, yes, thank you. I'm good on time, right?
You're fine.
Okay, great. So thank you for bearing with me. So following the events of Founders Week, we'll also be putting out a survey to the student body to kind of ask all students about their experiences with the events of the week, as well as the ball itself, asking for feedback, asking for any recommendations that they may have for future years of Founders. Accountability is especially crucial, and we look forward to facilitating this in the weeks after the event. As you can tell from all of these updates, we really are putting our best work in to try and reclaim our founders' vision. Tradition is incredibly important, so that's why we're recommitting ourselves to our campus community through effective and engaging programming during the week this year. We are really trying to be as intentional as possible in all of our practices, and we're putting more teamwork and collaboration back into this week. So we want to ensure that we foster that commitment and really see that through in our community this year. So we are so excited for all that's in store for this year's Founders programming, and we hope that you are too. Any questions? Yes, Curtis.
I thank you for your presentation, Emma. And I was just wondering, so how much is the student government putting up for the buses? Because I know that the Residence Hall Association did not fulfill the entire request from your office.
Mhm.
So I was just wondering, how was that remedied, and who is covering the remainder of the buses?
So that's something we're covering the remainder of. Bobby and Jacob have kind of been briefed on how we're doing our finances this year, so they have that information. Anything else?
Jacob?
Jacob.
I just would like to ask a question. I'll say that, would you agree that the meeting that we had was very productive and that you have a very good plan going forward with monitoring the government shutdown and with finances? Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. It was definitely a tough little news article I got on January 1st saying that the Smithsonian's were closing down indefinitely. So that was a surprise party, but I think we've done really well in kind of remedying the situation. We've had countless conversations with the venue themselves, student activities, Dr. Oz office. But I think, you know, with what we're being told by the mercy of the federal government, I think we're doing pretty damn well with what we're working with. So. Any other questions? Curtis.
Yes, thank you, Emma. And so, like, for example, you know, doomsday scenario, the government shuts down again, and the museum isn't open. Will the Founders Day Ball still be held? And is there a contingent, another location or venue in place?
So like I mentioned in my briefing, we do have a contingency plan. I hope I'm not seeming a little seedy to you by just referring you back to the conversation that Bobby and Jacob and I had, but just for the sake of not all of you having signed NDAs, I just really need to ease on the side of caution. But yes, we do have a contingency plan in place. We're very prepared for whatever happens following February 15th.
Bobby?
Yeah, I just have a statement, if you'll allow that, just to say that short of paying the Smithsonian's to keep open, like paying their budget, I think the Founders Day department has the best plan that they could. So if anyone else is interested in that, including Curtis.
Thanks, Bobby.
Piper?
So if the museum is closed or whatever, I mean, I don't know exactly how the finances work, but are y'all like losing money then, like for that day?
So from a finance perspective, which is something I can talk about because it's just a general situation, if anything were to happen with financial contingencies, the procurements and contracts department at the university would take over. And I, unfortunately, don't have a part in that process. I walk across that stage on May 11th, regardless. So they would take over that process if any financial contingencies were to come about. But do know and be reassured that, you know, we are pretty serious about how we spend our money. Anyone else? Awesome. Thank you all so much again. And I hope you're ready to go and get your tickets.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Trevor.
All right, we will now move to a report from Judicial Board Chair Fu.
Hello, everybody. Like Trevor said, I am Judicial Board Chair, and I'm required by the bylaws to come here, or a representative of me to come here to share anything that's going on with J-Board. And a couple things have happened, nothing big. First, I issued a judicial order the 3rd of December, making Eric Brock vice chair of the Judicial Board. Do you want me to read the whole thing? No? Okay, I didn't think so. It's on the website. If you want to take a look at it, it's just it cites the things that say, you know, vice chair serves as chair when I'm not there, and serves as parliamentarian when I'm not here in Senate. So it's just all that, naming him as vice chair. Second thing, I got an inquiry the 24th of January. I'm going to read this. I'm not going to read the pursuant parts. It's just Judicial Register allows me to determine whether I accept or dismiss inquiries and what the decision will be. We got an inquiry saying regarding the misuse and mislabeling of a photograph of a former American University student government president on a non-American university website. I dismissed the inquiry because it lacks relevance to the government and it lacks the jurisdiction of the board to intervene in matters regarding a former member of the government and an external website. So in short, we can't do anything about that. It wasn't the appropriate place to send an inquiry, but this person, I don't think, knew that, so they sent it anyway. Yeah, so we can't do anything about that. Any questions about that? I think that's the only
So just regarding the inquiry, so that person's no longer a university student either, right?
I don't know the status of the person. They didn't list an AU email and they didn't provide an AU ID, so I don't know who they are. I emailed them back saying I'm dismissing the inquiry. I haven't heard anything back from them, so they know. Third and final thing, as chair and in the absence of an inspector, who I'm still looking for, and I'm going to set up an application online to that, I have the right to informally recommend to student government members how they can better do their jobs. And I did issue such a recommendation to Comptroller Gladden on the 6th regarding two issues. The first is the update of the budget transparency website, which is required to be done twice a month. It doesn't say when twice a month, but twice a month. It hasn't been updated since 16th of October. So I told her, and she told me she would update it after the break. Still hasn't gotten done, so I'm going to stay in conversation with her over that. And the bylaws also require a fiscal report of the financial going-ons of the student government by the 1st of every month. That has not been issued either. She didn't really address that part of my email, so I'm going to have to follow up with her about that too. So those are the things I brought up with her. I informed her, Trevor, and Danya, because she's CADA chair, that I did that. And then the day after, I informed President Fernandez of the same thing. And so I'm going to continue that conversation later. Hopefully it gets resolved quickly because, you know, it's in the bylaws. It's got to be done. Any questions? Yeah.
For inspector, is it like someone outside of the AUSG or like how does that work?
So it can't be anyone who holds elected office or at least runs for elected office. But I wouldn't appoint someone who's in elected office either because it ruins the impartiality. Other than that, it's open game, I think. Yeah. So once I get an application open, then hopefully I'll start getting applicants and then I can name one soon. Yeah. And then that person can do the same thing I'm doing. The only thing I can't do as inspector is I can't raise formal inquiries before J board because it doesn't make any sense.
Bobby?
To your knowledge, do the other members of the J board know that once every semester they have to come back out before us to renew their term?
They do. I let them know. And I would have done it this week. I wasn't planning on being back in time for CRT, but I was. Alex said he would be doing it probably next week. Eric said he has a lot on his plate, but I still told him to get it done soon, so he knows that. I will probably do it next week.
Other questions?
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so a few reports from me. One, a couple days ago, I received a resignation from Senator Jackson. He is pursuing other options at other universities that are best for him, so he will be no longer with us. Therefore, because of that, Annalisa, I said Jackson, right? Annalisa will fulfill the role of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Chair until we hold elections for that, which will be at our next meeting. Depending on, it'll probably be in 2 weeks because the retreat is next week. So be aware of that. And then I'm also now conducting interviews for senator seats that are open. There's 2 open for campus at large. There's 5 open for 2020 and then 3 open for 2019. So if anyone knows anyone that is interested in serving this semester / the rest of the session, please direct them towards me. That way we can get some additional senators in there, or in here, I should say. And in terms of what's coming up, so I guess I should talk a little bit more about what's going on in new business. At 2:30, Anne Marie and Dr. Aw should be here, and Anne Marie is going to give a presentation / lead a discussion on dining options and what the One Card office has been doing this year, what they've been doing different since past years, and what they plan on doing in the following years. She gave a very similar presentation to RAs during RA training. So if it's similar to that, then I know it's going to be really good. In addition to that, please be sure to ask any and all questions that you can, because one, Anne Marie Powell is very transparent. She will tell you exactly what she knows and how she feels about things. But two, also, like, because she's going to be in the room, this is the perfect opportunity for you to answer any questions, figure out like what kind of steps to take forward, because I know a lot of you are interested in dining options and how to improve that for the student experience. In terms of Dr. Aw, that was a little last minute addition to our agenda today. So there's nothing really planned for a discussion with her, but I feel like it's a good opportunity for her to introduce herself to the new senators in the room who don't know who she is, but also allow you to, talk to her and tell her about like what areas are you really focused on this semester and this session specifically. That way she can help direct you to whoever may actually be able to help you in those situations, for like the directors in her department and her cabinet. So the directors of the different offices and things like that fall under her. So please ask questions, engage with her as much as possible, because she's taken time out of her Sunday to come here and be in front of you, and she really sees the potential and the power that the Senate has. And so let's use this opportunity to actually start engaging in those critical conversations and how to move forward. Because I know, a lot of you are new to this experience, but if you get at least some ideas of like where to move forward, how to move forward, what the process kind of looks like, she can give you insight on anything and everything about that. And then she's not only like the campus life vice president, but she also leads the inclusive excellence plan. So if you have questions about that as well, I'm sure she can answer some of those. So really take the time to ask any and all questions that you have. In terms of the retreat, next Sunday, it's going to be room still TBD, but it's going to fall from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. We have a lot of different things planned. I'm finishing up the agenda. Should be out by like Monday or Tuesday. There's like, some team building stuff, and then we'll go over like how to write legislation for a lot of you that are still like new to this process. And then we'll take some time as well to meet in committees to finalize your goals, talk about what your plans are this semester, go over the legislative agenda, things like that. And then I will also engage in conversations after the meeting about lunch options for us, because if you're going to be there for that many hours, we got to at least feed everyone. And then we won't have a Senate meeting after that, just because I don't want to take your whole Sunday. Plus, this thing called Super Bowl is happening that Sunday as well. So, so yeah, I don't want to keep you all your time on Super Bowl Sunday. What else? For committees, please try and find a consistent meeting time. I know it can be difficult with a lot of people's schedules, but like really just try and find 20 to 30 minutes that you can meet every week, or at least every other week. That way you keep it consistent, and regardless if you have legislation or not, you can continue pursuing your goals and bounce ideas off of each other. Be sure to keep me updated on that. That way we can get those published, and I can keep track of everything that y'all are doing as well. And then also remember that there is an event attendance requirement for all senators. So how that is going to work, and since it's the end of the month, I'll have a little leeway on this, but basically I'm going to send out a Google form that you Actually, no, I'm not going to do the Google form. What's going to happen is in committee meetings, you tell your committee chair about the event that you attended. You talk to your committee, you know, about your experience. If you engage with anyone, you know, if you talk to students about like how you can help them, what they need assistance from, things like that. Engaging that conversation, just seeing like different areas on campus that like that you as senators can be involved in and help with. That goes through your committee chair, and then your committee chairs will report that up to me. And then that's, you know, basically a monthly thing. If that doesn't happen, if that's not reported, then you will, that's like a committee attendance thing, committee absence that counts against you. So any questions for me regarding anything that's coming up, anything that we're doing? No? Okay. Oh, also one last thing. I'm still looking for a clerk. So please encourage people to apply there. Also the open Senate seats. Also an historian, if someone's interested in that. Basically, what I want them to try and do this semester is digitize all of our past legislation to get it online. That way people can access it easier. And then a legislative and advocacy director, I'm still looking for. And I have someone for a communications director, so hopefully we'll start getting more social media engagement and things like that for that. Okay, now are there any other questions? Awesome. Okay. So now we will move into, and there's no officers here. So we'll move into new business. And we have Director Anne-Marie Powell here, who is in charge of the One Card and Dining office. She's here today to talk to you all, introduce herself to a lot of you who don't know her. And we're going to sort of just engage in what the office has been doing, what they plan on doing. And if you have any questions for her, sort of just keep it like an open discussion. That way we can sort of figure out what the senators want to do this upcoming semester and how we can build that relationship and work for, improve the student experience overall. So I'll hand the floor over to you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So some of the faces I know, I'm Anne-Marie Powell. I'm the director of One Card and Dining Services. So today I really want to focus, I'll talk about what our office is doing, what's going on with dining, but I really want to focus on, you're getting a proposal for what the meal plans will look like for starting fall of 2019 and spring of 2020. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about why some of these changes are taking place so that you're aware of what's going on and why, and hopefully be able to have some discussion with the Senate as we're talking about this and moving forward. We're really, and I'm going to start off and just let you know that we're at a real time crunch right now in terms of getting this ready because we have to present the meal plan to the Board of Trustees. And we've been going through this process since in fall. We did 2 days of, we did open forums where we had everybody come in. We had different types of options to look at for meal plans. We did 5 on each day where we could house 25 students, and I had 30 students show up. And that kind of concerned me because we have over 4,000 students on a meal plan. So only have 30 show up to hear about what's happening with the plans moving forward. So I got to get in front of more people and be able to talk about what's going on. So as you know, One Card and Dining sort of has split last year from housing, and we're under the auxiliary services now. But in our office, we moved our office into the Mary Grading Center on the first floor so that we could be hub center to be able to serve students more and answer questions. So the idea of the One Card and Dining office now is to be able to, for students to come in, be able to ask questions, whether it be about my ID card, how does it work, what's happening with my room, about my meal plan, even about vending, if you're having some issues with vending machines and things that we can take care of all those different options for you. the office itself, besides our meal plan, we are in the process of a new RFP out right now for vending. So we're looking to change our vending snack machines, upgrade them, put more healthy options in there, make the machines look more like things that belong in the 21st century. Okay, so that is part of the goal of what we're doing. We've had 4 different vending companies out within the last week doing walkthroughs, and we're waiting now to get pricing proposals back from them. So just a quick overview of some of the things that we're doing and have going on. I want to focus on the meal plan piece, though, which is what I'm supposed to be here to talk about and not take up too much of your time. So in front of you, you have 2 different proposals for the meal plan for fall of 2019. We looked at it and said, let's look at what was happening with our current meal plan. What were some of the things that we saw? When I first got here, I started hearing a lot about, we want an all-access plan. And I'm going to be honest, it really came a lot from athletics. They want to be able to go into TDR as much as they want, as often as they want, to have access all the time without having to just keep using a swipe. And, we do there's a balance. We do have students who don't use all their swipes, and we have students who add swipes throughout when we have an add period. And usually in November and April, we'll let students add when they're running low. So to this plan here, we have 5 different plans that we're looking at for the fall. The first one would be the all access 7 days a week. So 7 days a week, you give your card, you go in and out of TDR as much as you want. It comes with 5 meal exchanges. And I'm going to explain the meal plan, because what I'm learning too, a lot of students don't understand how the meal plan works. So the meal plan your current meal plan has 3 components. It has meal swipes, dining dollars, and Eagle Bucks. Okay. Those meal swipes are treated 2 different ways. So when I'm going into TDR, I'm literally doing a swipe. I hand my card to the cashier, I swipe, I go in, and I eat as much as I want. If I'm going to a retail location such as Global Fresh or Freshies or Einstein, I'm using a meal exchange. So what that does is that I can have an entree, a side, and a fountain drink for my meal exchange. That's my meal exchange that I get in place of it. So I've heard students say to me, well, if I go to Global, it's $15.99 swipe. That is not true. We do in our system we have to in our POS system put a placeholder as of what to sell. We try to look if somebody bought things a la carte in the location, and they bought an entree, a side, the most expensive entree, the most expensive side, and a drink. That's how we determine that placeholder. Your meal plan and your cost per swipe is determined by which meal you got. So you'll see student price per meal. That's what you'll be looking at, depending on what meal plan you select, what your cost will be for that individual swipe. But I wanted to explain that because I realized when I spoke to RAs a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of confusion about what exactly is the cost of a meal for me, for the individual cardholder. So the all access is 7 days into TDR with 5 meal exchanges. So I can go into TDR as much as I want, but each week it would reset for me and I get 5 meal exchanges if I wanted to go to any of those retail locations. Everybody got that so far? All right. The next one would be a weekly 12. And if you've noticed, one of the things we've looked at, I've been hearing, why do I have these 2 type store value accounts? Why do I have dining dollars and why do I have Eagle Bucks? Okay, I've also heard, I don't want the dining dollars because I can only use them in the dining hall in our Aramark locations. So we're going to take away dining dollars and increase the amount of Eagle Bucks. So now you get more spending to do more things. And it's for me, it's a catch-22 with the Eagle Bucks because Eagle Bucks can be used for more than just buying food. You use it to do your laundry, which is not a food-related thing, but you get the Eagle Bucks with your meal plan. So we want to just now have only Eagle Bucks available. We've decided to look at a 12 weekly plan because this now gives that with $300 in Eagle Bucks, and the weekly plan would reset every week. So our week is Sunday through Saturday. So every Sunday, you would get 12 new meals for the week. And if you use all 12, you're good. If you only use 10, those other 2 don't go along with you. It resets on the next week back to 12. We also have a block 100 with $400 in Eagle Bucks. So if I want the 100 meal plan, I'm going to get the $400 in Eagle Bucks. The block 50 comes with $100 in Eagle Bucks. And then we've decided there are students, especially students who are going on internships, our upperclassmen, who maybe don't want a meal swipe per se, but I want more Eagle Bucks because I'm going to go different places as we've grown to expand the Eagle Bucks program, that we've added more places. We added a lot more things onto the Eagle Bucks program that we didn't have before. We're constantly growing. So I'm also always looking for recommendations. Who else would you like to see accept Eagle Bucks? What new places in the area? And it doesn't necessarily have to be just in the Tenleytown area. You know, if you're doing an internship, and bear with me because I'm sort of new to the area, DuPont Circle area, something like that, and you know someplace that's good over there or in a different area, let us know. We will reach out, especially if you can give us the name of a place. So those are the proposed, but the important thing is who is required to be on a meal plan? Let's talk about the nitty-gritty of that. So we're looking at, it is first and second year students that would be on the weekly 12 with the 300 Eagle Bucks. That's the group that we're looking for, and that's the group that we would be looking at, first and second year students. That would be required. Any questions so far? I know I said a lot. Yes.
Hi. Okay.
And can you tell me who? I know who you are, but tell me who you are, so because I can't see that far back.
I'm Matt Robbins.
Okay.
Senator for the
Okay.
So I have a bunch of concerns.
Okay.
Now, as a preface, along with Thierry and Parker, who can make it today, I've had several meetings, also Curtis, with Ms. Howell, with Mr. Smith, and with Dr. Haw, over the past couple of months. I'd say starting maybe October, November, or November, I guess it was, about the meal plans. We've had some concerns with these, especially after attending the focus groups. We weren't especially excited, to say the least, with the proposals made at that, with the focus groups revealed then, which are obviously different from the ones here.
Mm-hmm.
But my issue here is it seems that a lot of the concerns that we raised weren't really addressed. A bunch of them were, but a lot of our concerns, especially when it comes to the increases in cost for sophomores, speaking on behalf of the freshman class, are still there. With the weekly 12 plan, in both proposals being mandatory for freshmen and sophomores, sophomores would be expected to pay an entire $2,000 more for the year than they would currently. Currently, they are on the fourth buy-in for sophomores or second year students is a 100 swipe plan, which goes, and I'm looking at the website right now, for $1,580.
Yes.
And now that's a lot less than $2,500. So we're talking that every single sophomore at this school living on campus, with few exceptions, is going to be expected to pay an entire $2,000 more. And the university is very transparent to current students and to prospective students about tuition increases. They say that, you know, you can expect a 3.5% or so increase, and obviously they're not beholden to that. They can increase by however much they want. But it's also pretty clear that your housing and dining is going to increase by like what, half a percentage point a year. This is a gigantic increase to how much students are going to be paying. It's not something that students budgeted for. It's not something that students really should be expected to budget for a random $2,000 increase. And if university is so determined to raise it, that you guys see.
So I think, Max, and let me address that. So if you look at the 1167 there, cost per meal, that's the same exact price that you're paying now as a first year student. So the price of the meal plans, we've actually held the prices to be the same for next year. So we did not, the only thing that did change is the requirement of what plan the second year student will need to be on. But in terms of the pricing, all the pricing we did hold the same as this year.
Well, the pricing seems that it's increasing a lot though, because if I was a sophomore this year, so the sophomores in the room, you guys are paying $1,500 for a meal plan for a semester. That's correct, right?
Some are, yes.
But next year, I'm not gonna be able to get a $1,500 meal plan each semester. I'm gonna have to get a $2,500 meal plan. So I'm paying an extra $2,000 along with just about all the other rising sophomores next year. That's a gigantic increase to what we budgeted. Kids who are on loans, kids who are on financial aid, that's not something we anticipated. That's a gigantic increase. And if the university is so determined to make such an increase like that, then I think that the students really are deserving of a warning. If you want to do that, then that's fine. I think that the upcoming, the rising sophomore class, they shouldn't be beholden to that. If you are determined to make a substantial $2,000 increase, you should tell prospective students on the website that if you come here in 2 years, when the next budget cycle rolls around, they should have a heads up to say, oh, I love AU, I want to go here, but I know how much it costs. And I know that if I choose to go here in 2 years, I'm going to get slapped with an extra $2K. That's not something that any single freshman at this school expected when they came here. And I'm sorry if I seem a little agitated, but this just seems like it's directly against the students' interest. I'm not going to reiterate everything I've said over the past few months over email, with phone, and in person, but we've highlighted some pretty substantial reasons why sophomores don't need this. I'm sure some sophomores could help me out here in that, when you're living in someplace like East Campus, a larger meal plan is not what you want. I've had freshmen come up to me and say that 175 is too much. I've had sophomores come up to me and say that 100 is too much, and that they want added flexibility. And so by making someone purchase, a weekly 12 is pretty much 11. 175 is 11 to 12 meal plans a week. The cost quite the week, which is what the website currently says. So pretty much they're being forced to buy what freshmen buy, one or half they get, and what freshmen want is too much. So and if sophomores are going to use even less, then this just seems to be directly inapplicable. It's the opposite of what students express desires for.
Okay, so based on that, I'll tell you that we did look at usage, what usage looks like across the board for both groups. So we were able to look at the usage, we can see that data, look at the usage of what both sophomores and freshmen. There are some freshmen, or sophomores who don't use all their meal plans, but we also do have those who come and have to add more and need to add more to their meal plan. So we have to come to where does that sweet spot in the middle? And that's where, but and in terms of cost, it's the same. I mean, it's what you're currently paying as a freshman now when you go into your sophomore year as cost per meal. That's what we had to look at. Where do we come from our business model of how do we look at doing this? And yes, we did take what the discussions that we had with you, but we also looked at all our data too.
Because the freshmen, we understand that we'd be paying the same price as currently I'm paying the freshmen. I'm paying $2,500 for meal plan right now. But so granted, the thing is, I didn't sign on to AU. I signed on looking carefully, and as many other students did, at the meal plans. I saw, okay, when weighing AU against the other college options that I had, I saw, okay, if I go to AU, I'm paying $2,500 for a meal plan for the first year. I'm paying $1,500 for a second year. When people budget out their 4 years, no one anticipates an extra $2,000 that year. That's hugely substantial. I have friends and myself who are on loan, who aren't in these very flexible financial states when coming to this university, which is already pricey, which is another discussion, to be prepared to make these gigantic leaps of $2,000 a year. That's pretty damn substantial. And I don't think
language, please.
Let's
be respectful.
Yes, of course.
I'm trying to talk here, so you'll work with me. I want to make sure about a couple of things. So Max, your particular issue is the meal plan for second years.
That's among other things.
No, let's stick with that for now.
Right, sure.
Okay, so your particular issue is with the meal plan for second year.
Yes.
And currently, second year students, as I understand it, in law, is you have the 100 block. Is that what you have? And what is the Eagle Bus value?
It is $200.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So it's 100 block and 200 Eagle Bus.
Right.
Is what you currently have, and the value of that currently is 100, right?
For sophomores.
That's about it. Here, I'm seeing meal plan block 100 with 400 Eagle Bucks at $12.50 per meal. The value is $16.50. Your contention is why are sophomore having the same meal plan block as first year students, and what the implications of the cost of? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm not really looking at the price per meal for the bang for the buck. I'm looking
looking
at
the increase
on
in what
the
the
surface
impact-
level of the
yes.
fact that you're paying more,
Yes.
which
that's
is a
what I'm
very tangible thing.
That's what I'm hearing from you, is the increase and the impact that that has in terms of increase for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I just wanna make sure I understand what the issue at hand is. And
So
then there's
Max-
folks with some hands up, and I wanna make sure
Yeah.
we respect that.
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, if I could we have a system here so we can keep track of people so that, let's say, like every one of our members here gets, we'll say 6 minutes for conversation with our guests. That way we can have some system for sharing the time between all the people.
So, like you're suggesting 6 minutes per person?
Or like, I get 6 minutes for conversation and Jacob and Piper. Because we're kind of not doing a system right now where we normally do, where each person gets called on and asks us a single question. And I also don't think that would be very effective because I think people have multiple questions that go in sequence.
Right.
So that's like what they do in real Congress.
Yeah.
They have, each member gets time.
If there's no objection, then I can set a 5-minute speaking limit. So, okay.
I have one question
Well,
about that 5-minute thing.
Okay.
Is that back and forth? Like, I don't get 5 minutes to just grandstand, it's back and forth.
It's like your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jacob?
I want to start off by saying thank you for being here, Ms. Powell. The job that you do is, I would imagine, very difficult, and you're fielding a lot of concerns and questions all throughout your daily routine, I would imagine. So thank you for being here and taking some questions and presenting to us. I think there's probably going to be a second part if I'm looking at the plan correctly, so I'm looking forward to hearing about that. I wanted to ask you, there was an interesting article that was written in the Eagle from a student about some of her concerns about the meal plan. I don't know if you had a chance to read it. Did you have a chance to read that?
when was it?
It was published last 2018 in October 2nd. Basically, she talks about how she really liked the chance to be able to use her meal plans elsewhere, other campus locations that don't accept meal plans. One of the concerns that I have is if more people will be getting more meal plans or meal exchanges, what sorts of improvements will be made to ensure that wait times are decreased? Because many people, the motto is a meal plan that fits your life, but a lot of people don't have the time to wait sometimes upwards of 45 minutes at Einstein's, no matter how delicious the bagels might be. So I'm just wondering, what kinds of data are you collecting on wait times? How you are looking to improve those wait times, and what sorts of other campus locations that don't currently accept meal plans are you looking to maybe try and expand?
Okay, so let me take the data and wait time. So we have, and we'll use Einstein, we put in some new equipment where we did kiosks, and we have basically a bump station in the back that the staff is using. We are in the process right now based on looking at data, because I can actually see the data and see exactly how long each order takes to look at, and just finished going through all that data for the past fall, and actually for the last couple of weeks, and observing it with the management team of our dining services, Aramark. And we're adding more, like we just ordered to add some more printers in the back for the staff to give them more training and what they need to do and how to get things out, and looking at staffing patterns too that are there. So that's one thing we have also done. We're in the process of doing what we call a market match right now. And actually tomorrow we'll be looking at all of that to see where are some of the concepts, are the concepts that we have now currently on staff the right ones? Should we be changing them? Should we be making some changes to them, because some of them have been here for a while. We've introduced this past semester, we introduced something called Tapango, where you could pre-order, and we started with a small amount of locations so that you could download an app and a student could pre-order their products and go be able to pick them up, have it ready for them to pick up. We've added Tapango now to all the locations, so you could pre-order ahead of time to help if you're busy. You know, we know students are busy and trying to move. We've increased and added the to-go piece in TDR. So if somebody just wants to go and you don't have time to sit there and eat, but I can do it to go from TDR to go. So we are looking at how do we, one of the things I know from students' point of view, you're looking for convenience. You're looking, you know, your time is valuable and you're on the run. We've also increased our items that we have in our pods and Eagle's Nest or even in East Campus. So there's more grab and go type products that you can utilize. We're going to be doing that same thing into the pod that sits inside of Mary Braden Center, the mini pod, so that you can be able to run and grab something quick and not have to wait in a long line. So we've been evaluating and looking at those lines now. So that would answer your first question. As far as other places on campus, all places on campus that are not part of AU Dining are eligible to apply to accept our Eagle Bucks. And that's where you would be able to utilize those places to use Eagle Bucks, because you know, we are a private institution, and how we deal with the meal plan, we have to be careful with that being a private institution, that we are not, you know, with a third party, a private vendor or any vendor, whether it be a Chipotle's or any place like that, that we're doing all the things the right way. So that's where we are able to utilize the stored value account of Eagle Bucks in those locations with students. And that's one of the reasons we moved to just having the Eagle Bucks be the stored value product that we offer. Did I answer all your questions?
You did, and I'm looking forward to hearing the second part of your presentation. Hopefully be able to ask some follow-ups. Once
Okay.
again, thank you for the.
You're welcome.
Bobby?
Yeah, so thanks, Charles, for being here. And I want to turn quickly to the question of price of plans, what people are required to buy. So I hear you that in terms of what, like, if you look at requirements year by year by cost per meal, this 1167 isn't changing. And I would never like attribute to you or the dining office like a certain intention in how you present this information to students. But from the student side, if we just pick some random student off the street and we present them with this, they might get the impression that this presentation of information in this fashion is disingenuous, because when students are looking at what they need to pay, I'm just proceeding the question with like trying to get the student perspective. They're not looking at every time I get a meal, the money doesn't leave the students' pockets every time they get a meal. They look at the beginning of every semester and they say this $25,000 or however much they pay, that's how much they pay. So from my perspective, I think the vast majority of students would be more concerned with what they actually have to pay rather than if you break it down, the value of every meal. So can we agree that from that perspective, which as a matter of fact is how money actually leaves the accounts of students, that sophomores will be required, like Max said, to pay $2,000 more next year than they are this year, or when this plan goes into effect versus now?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the case, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so can you explain then why, like, what is the reasoning that you guys have for this $2,000 increase? Why is that being put into effect? That's my
Yes, I can give you some perspective. My name is Trent Smith. I work with Emory. So what we looked at is what options do sophomores have to prepare meals? Predominantly in dining halls we have. And in reality, especially in East Campus, there's not a kitchen in each room, right? So in my mind, yes, it's an increase, but the total cost of attendance should be the same. Meaning the money spent on meals, hypothetically, I saw you look down, hypothetically, if you were going to spend your own money on meals or trying to hit that sweet spot, meaning the total money you'd pay out of your pocket, to your point, to live and eat for that semester should be about the same. So if you don't have 12 meals per week and you only have 100, which ends up being like 8 or 9 meals, you're gonna decide what to eat on those other meals, right? So it's not like you're only having 9 meals per week or you're only having 12 meals per week. You can choose to do that, you can choose not to do that, right? So my daughter chooses not to eat in TDR and spend her own money at Waxhaw's or something. That's a reality of it, right? So what we're suggesting is that we think 12 meals a week is a good number for you to have in one of our locations that we can, that we're providing. And the other thing too is there's no this is not the final discussion as well. The reason we came here to talk with everybody is to get some feedback, right? So we're trying to do this in a new way, but the way it should have been done the whole time, which is get some feedback. But we did think a lot about what 12 meals per week is, okay? So that's less than 2 meals a day. So we're trying to look at it the same way you're looking at, but also quantify how many times students are eating, when are they eating, right? So two meals a week could be breakfast and lunch. We all know that when we think you should eat dinner, you probably don't eat dinner. We all know that, right? So we're trying to be realistic about this and present some things that we think both you are going to like and your parents are going to like, right? Because we all know that there's usually, that's part of our equation. What we think the parents are going to expect from the institution and what they're going to provide. So again, you know, I think we're at a place where we really feel good about this being the expectation, but are willing to listen to other things as well. I don't think you're going to dramatically change your price per meal, though. Whether you spend it with us or spend it with somebody else, you're going to eat.
Right, yeah, I appreciate first that you guys, that this is the last conversation. And again, I would thank you for soliciting student feedback. But if, like, you're valuing the students' price per meal and the fact that they have to choose whether to buy a meal from AU Dining or buy a meal somewhere else or cook it on their own, why is there an increase in the required amount that sophomores are required to pay to AU? Because if the value is valuing the recognition that sophomores and other students have to buy a meal from AU Dining or somewhere else, why are sophomores not allowed to buy a smaller meal plan from AU with the recognition that they'll have to buy food somewhere else? Because when I was a sophomore, I was lucky enough to move off campus, and by doing that, my housing and dining costs put together were cut in half because eating off campus is significantly less expensive than eating on campus. So I'm wondering, why can't AU Dining just let sophomores choose a meal plan, knowing that they'll have to get food somewhere else if they don't have every single meal accounted for at AU?
So I think, you know, and yeah, transparency, right? For the model of our dining plans to work, there has to be a multitude of people, just like you guys are learning anything about insurance risk. The risk pool has to be big, right? So the dining pool has to be big for these numbers to make sense in terms of your price per meal if you don't care about that. So the total cost is, right? It is what it is. To your point, a lot of these decisions are made because we believe the majority of students want to live on campus because that's the best experience for them. We believe that is the case, the best experience is to live on campus. So this is predominantly for them. We think that if you're living on campus, 12 meals a week is pretty basic. It's breakfast and lunch 6 days. And so that's what we're going with.
Yeah, but if students are living on campus, that's one thing. I do realize that most students live on campus. Why can't they also choose, okay, I'm living in Cell Hall and I would like to get the Block 50 meal plan with 100 Eagle Bucks. That's $750. Why can't students make that decision for themselves instead of being required to pay almost $2,000 more than that on campus?
We've chosen for that not to be the case.
Yeah, I know that you have chosen for that not to be the case, but can you elaborate why that was the choice that you made? Is it like likening it to an insurance market, kind of like an individual mandate where you require everyone to pay more so that, like...
Well, no, it's economies of scale.
Okay. So can you just elaborate on why you're not just letting people, even if they live on campus or not, choose a less expensive meal plan?
We're choosing not to because we believe this is the best plan for the university for our students.
Well, I think those are two different best choice for the university and best for the it could be best for the university in that it brings in the most revenue and it makes the meal plan the easiest to administer. But in terms of what's best for every individual student, I appreciate that you might believe that that's the best for every individual student, but don't you think that the students are in the best place to decide individually what is best for them?
I think that is an assumption you could use. It's a hypothesis you can use. There is also a function of what you're discussing that involves a product that we believe is the best to put to the market, to your point, and that's what we've decided. To elaborate on that, the price per meal and all those things come in all, right? So to go in and kind of a la carte your way through the meal plan doesn't work. These are large scale decisions. I get where you're going, where students should, in your mind, be able to pick each individual thing, if they want 50 meals or they want 100 meals. That's not what we're advising, and it's just not what we're presenting.
Yeah, I'm sorry if this seems repetitive, but I understand that is the decision you make, and then my question has been, what is the reasoning, like the logic behind that decision? And then what I'm hearing from you each time, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you just return with, that is the decision that we make.
But I said economies of scale. The dining program doesn't work unless you have guidelines and specificity. Okay, so if we decided not to allow certain things as mandates, the price would go up for everybody.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the prices come down in volume. So if we a la carte the entire,
we're bringing it. This is why we did the focus groups earlier, so that students would have input to have, so we can go back to the drawing board and look. But it may mean that some of this may switch, and it may be different. The price may have to differ. This is why we need to have this discussion about what's there.
Do I have any?
No, yeah, Bobby, your time is up. Kali.
Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm a senator. I'm actually a sophomore right now. And I have a lot of friends who live in Casell and everything. They're also sophomores, and they end up cooking their own meals because they're vegan and they don't find suitable dining options on campus that either taste good or just don't fulfill them as well as one would assume. So by increasing this, by having this certain amount for sophomores, yes, they're required to pay this and everything, but then they also have to buy groceries outside because they just don't want to keep what's on campus. That's what I'm hearing here.
In the proposal, yes, we're trying to be transparent. Yes, in the proposal, what we're suggesting is these sophomores would be a mandatory weekly 12. In this proposal, but we're talking about it. But to your point, yes, if they want to eat vegan every meal and don't like the choices, they would have to go out and buy groceries. That's accurate.
Well, no, that's not really true. Let's all be very transparent here. We realize that there have been some problems with dining and options that are available. We have to all be honest about that. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that, yes, I'm aware of that. I see that. We are working to improve that. I'm going to put myself a year ago when I came here a year ago and what things look like. Last spring I saw some improvement, a little backslide, but we are constantly looking and working, and this is why we have this market match going on, because we literally said to the provider, this isn't working. What you're offering us is not working. We have these different needs that need to be met, and they're not happening. So I'm not going to say that as a student, you need to go, if you have a meal plan, that you should be trying to buy food and cook and supplement on your own. No, if we're giving you a meal plan and we're saying that we can meet these needs, we have to start to meet those needs. And that's what we're working, that's what we're in the process of doing. That's why we started a dining advisory board last year. So I can literally hear from the students and really know what is exactly happening, what is going on. So, it's not, I would be lying to you and tell you if it was perfect right now. It's not. But we are constantly working on getting it to where it should be. And, we started by, even when you think about vegan options and what things you can do or special diets that you can do, that's why we changed the pod here at East Campus, so it would offer all the things similar to what you could probably go to Whole Foods and buy, but be able to use your meal plan. So I do understand that, and I would never say that a student should have to have a meal plan and then go and buy something extra. You know, you may have the purpose of being able to go off campus and use your Eagle Bucks is because just like if you were home, you don't eat all your meals at home. You do go out, you do other things. And that's what we want to give you that variety to do. But we also need to know, and this is where the importance comes up, what, you know, we know the vegans and vegetarians and, you know, we're working on things to change that and get it to where it should be. But, you know, I have to be honest, it's a process. It's a process of making sure all the pieces and getting feedback. You know, I'm getting feedback from students, whether it's at the dining advisory board or emailing me directly or making us aware of what things you're looking and you want to see there. So I will say that.
Piper?
So actually, this is kind of segues pretty much what I wanted to ask Piper and the freshman. Thank you for coming. So yeah, I was gonna ask, you know, say that basically y'all need a certain amount of people to be paying a certain amount in order to make this plan work or whatever. If that is the case, you know, and there's nothing we can do to particularly change that one way or another, there have got to just be better options, you know, for vegan people, for gluten-free, allergies, people who don't want to eat pasta and pizza and burgers every day. That's the consistent option. Or Freshie is like 500 calories full. It's not healthy. So I guess my question is, you mentioned a little bit just now about what you guys are doing to improve. Like, why does it take so long to make these changes? Why are the options on campus right now so unhealthy? Like, what was the thought process going to that, if you know?
Okay, so I will tell you that prior to my coming here, I don't know, all right? But I will tell you one of the things is we have to look at infrastructure. We have to look at equipment. Do we have the right products to do this? We have to look at training and getting the right people. You know, it's about having the right people and having the people with the knowledge of this is, you know, this is what a true vegan a vegan option looks like. This is what a true vegetarian, and because, you know, some people don't know the difference between the two. This is what is it, the difference between kosher and halal? You know, what is truly happening? We've been spending a lot of time, even with employees, trying to have them understand and educate them of what is the difference, why the requirements, why certain things are there. So it's truly been for me, a year of doing this and looking at products, looking at what's there, and actually being able to look and compare. When I got here, the first thing I did is a comparison from admissions and saying, tell me where students who apply to AU, where else did they apply to? And truly going out and doing a market match and looking at those schools' meal plans. What do they offer? What are some of the things that are different? And it's a process. I mean, I hate to say this, but it's reality, and I'm not going to lie to you. It's a matter of us training, buying the right products, getting the right things out, and that's the process that we're going through. We're looking, you know, and that's why I talked about the market match. It's really saying this market match has taken almost a year now. We started talking about it September of 2017, and now we're finally going to get all the results of it. But what is truly out there in the market? You know, we know that there are better things that we should be offering. How do we make that happen with an infrastructure where a TDR is the only traditional dining hall we have? So, you know, to make those changes, how do we do that? How do we change everything around, revamp it, do all the pieces that make it work? So it is happening. I mean, I know it's a sad thing to say, yeah, it's happening, but you're still requiring us to be on a meal plan. I do understand that. But, you know, we are in the process of having those things, of looking at those things and making those things happen. And tell me if I'm over my 5 minutes too.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. Larry?
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Especially got the girls working with students and also listening to us, exchanging ideas. Really great. I just wanted to also say that when I came back here, actually, there's more vegan vegetarian options, I must say. However, So that's good. I don't know if it was random or something like that, or if there was an input in that. But I really appreciated that since there were different options and all that kind of stuff. So that's something good. However, just like an issue what I still see is that obviously people that are not vegetarian or vegan, they still eat vegetarian and vegan options. And actually today, I wanted to go to a pod and try to get myself a vegetarian option. There were none left, but there was a whole section filled with meat options, the whole section, everything was full. So there was none there. So then I decided to go to the East Pod. East Pod, they had salads and all that kind of stuff, but no vegetarian or vegan options, nothing in that area. However, all the meat options full. Everything was full. So that kind of reminded me, okay, like I said, there's also obviously people that eat meat that take vegetarian or vegan options because it's better. So then my question is, in general, is obviously this is a process, like you said. So my question is then, has there been a consideration to maybe make an option between the two? So maybe for sophomores, so maybe have an option for them to either take the weekly 12 or the block 100. Since like that, if people would want to decide to take the block 100, their costs would stay the same. However, if they would want to have more for those students which want more food, they can take the weekly 12, right? So in that case, you give an option of 2. It's still limited, obviously, but it would keep students to have the same price that they would have expected. So my general question is just, has there been consideration about that? And will there be more, will there be a further increase in the vegetarian options? Since like myself, I don't want to have a weekly 12 plan if I'm so limited to these options, because I'd rather just have a block 100 and cook myself some food, right?
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, one of the key things I think I want to just make sure that on that first page, it does say meal plan proposal. Okay. I really want to be key on that. And that's why I really wanted to come here and talk about proposal. This is our proposal. This is for me to get this feedback from the Senate. I mean, I've met with Max, we've met with a few students, but that's a small percentage. You represent a larger body of students. Just like the RHA, we're going to go meet with them. It's because it represents a larger body. Okay. I understand when I'm meeting with students, I take what you're telling me, but I also need to speak to the body and get more from the body. So first, this is a proposal. So now we're getting your feedback, we're hearing your information. We're going to go back and look at this and see, maybe that's what we do need to have that option and look at where you are. In terms of the increase, I'm taking notes for myself because there is no reason why we do not have, you should be able to go to any of those places and get that product. So now I have to go back and ask about what's happening with the ordering, what's happening with the inventory that you have. So, and those are things that we can fix. We can make sure they're fixed. And also, I'm going to tell you, I do ask them sometimes to keep some stuff to the back because, sometimes the person who really needs it can't get it because somebody just took all the stuff. So it may have been there and not available, but it should go out on the shelf if we have nothing. So I will have that conversation with them.
And one more thing, you're absolutely right. The feedback from you guys was transmitted to Aramark and I want everyone to get this. We should be advocating for so what we're trying to do is get the best proposal that the students, for the most part, agree with to push forward because that's in everyone's best interest, right? And so part of your feedback was, all right, we can do self-prepared or meals that are already prepared, right? So whether it's get freshly or all those things, that's in the works behind the scenes. Doesn't happen fast because we don't have the infrastructure for that. But to your point, we're moving a lot faster now in the last 8 weeks than we probably have in the last 5 years. And the reason we're coming to you, probably the first time you've seen us, is because there is some urgency now behind us because we do think this is an integral part of the student experience. We hope that we're adding to the student experience if you stay on campus. And to go back to what Anne Marie's saying, this is really a proposal to get feedback. because we have to come to a place where we're comfortable with what we're providing and we're advocating as well, right? So we think this was our best guess so far. We'll take the information we've gained from this group and other groups that Anne-Marie goes and talks to, and then that'll end up in the final discussion.
Sean.
Hi, Director Powell. I'm Sean.
Hi, Sean.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the body does as well. My question is, in terms of the dining options, what's the current status of megabytes in terms of if it's going to reopen or if it will be replaced? And then going off our meeting a few months ago, I know you mentioned the tavern pod that there might be a possibility of changing that and making it another dining option. So could you just elaborate on the status?
So yeah, so again, we're talking timing and infrastructure. So I'm going to take megabytes is not part of the dining program.
Oh, go ahead.
So that's not where for me to talk about that. So but in terms of the mini pod, we are looking. Right, I mentioned we're going to add some more of the healthy options and things that are there and put it in that location. We do want to think about what else could it be, you know, rather than we have a pod down in Eagle's Nest right in the tunnel. Do we really need to have a pod there? What else should it be? And this is sort of the things that as, you know, we start talking more with the dining advisory board and talking more with students, we can come up, what should it be? We have to come up, we have to look at it. In order for those things to change though, we need the time. You know, it has to be, you know, for us, the best time that we could do something with that pod would probably be summer, because we don't usually open it in the summer to make all the adjustments with it. It's just that it's not like we don't have the opportunity where we can close things down and then start to do all these major things to it, because even if we look at what's in the tavern or what's in the marketplace side, there are other things going on around it. So we have to schedule and make those all projects that we're going to work on. So we are looking, and you know, and this is where I say, you need to give us ideas and suggestions, other than if it's not a mini pod, what else would you like to see there? You know, and I share this, and I know I've shared this with the dining advisory board. You know, students will say, oh, we want to see this chain in here or this thing. Note that when you start to think about chains or putting corporations in, there are limitations. So then we end up having different problems, because the chain will say, in order to open, you need to have X number of people. So if people call out sick, then we can't open, or we open late. So we have to think about those things. What kind of things can we do that will always ensure that it will be available to the students?
Max?
Okay, so first, again, I want to thank you guys for coming. I think that this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for public record. This is on YouTube right now, for students to understand what's going on. B, for our fellow senators, so we're not just having a closed conversation. So again, thank you guys. Now I want to say that I understand that the wheels of progress turn, but that they turn slowly. I understand that you guys are working hard and are listening to students, whether it's feedback surveys, whether it's us, whether it's focus groups, to understand the areas of improvement that need to be made. Like Gary said, you guys are clearly very well informed, and it seems, as Gary said when he came back for this semester, that you guys are making the necessary steps towards facilitating those dietary accommodations and restrictions, such as vegetarians and vegans. However, like I said, the wheels of progress turn slowly. You can't expect, and we don't expect of you that, you know, overnight, every vegan, every vegetarian, every celiac, they're all going to be accommodated instantly. So while we don't have that expectation of you, I think that it's similarly unfair to students to say, okay, we are trying, we're going slow, we're going as fast as we can when implementing these changes for accommodations, but we're still going to make you purchase something that we're admitting will eventually suit your needs, but at the present moment doesn't. I'm really bad with an analogy, so I was going to try and make one. The point is, I'm not going to buy something if I know it's not going to adequately accommodate me. I appreciate, obviously, and I think we are all very appreciative of the efforts you're making so that it will eventually accommodate me, and that someday, it could be next year, it could be 2 years from now, but in all likelihood, it's not going to be right around the corner that vegans, vegetarians, gluten-free students are all going to be adequately accommodated. That they're not going to feel like, I'm quoting a sophomore right now, that they're being taxed for their accommodation. I understand, obviously, that's not your intention. That's what it can come off as. That's what it feels. That you're paying a tax for your dietary needs because you're being forced to buy something that everyone else has to buy that serves students without those needs, but doesn't serve you. And this just it further goes that this university, obviously intentionally, is acting in a course that's not parallel with the student interest. It's not like perpendicular. It's not like you're acting 100% contrary to what students' interests are. And obviously, I'm speaking from the perspective of a student, and I have the mindset. I like to think that I understand what students feel, and I'll be the first to admit that I don't know what all students feel. But I've spoken to dozens and dozens and dozens of students about this. I know that students don't want to pay a lot more for a meal plan. I know that freshmen think that their plan is too big. That sophomores still think that their plans are too big. That everyone doesn't see the flexibility that they would like to. And I think that, and I appreciate that this is a proposal. And I think that, like either Bobby or Jacob said, that you guys are coming to us asking for suggestions so that we can continue down the road. So with that, I really implore you to take note of what we said here today. That
So
a lot of what's going on is just.
Yeah, so can I, I'm here because I'm listening. Of course. So I think I'm just gonna put something on the table and then I make it clear. Please say your name again. Thierry, please. When we had the conversation, Thierry came back and said, you know what? With X and Y, here are what I would suggest as here are the options that you should give us. So my question to you, Maxie, is what are you putting on the table in terms of options?
Oh, sure.
That's because we really need to get to that, because that's the feedback we need to be able to get, to know what are the options that you're putting on the table.
So to answer that, what I suggest, and thank you, Dr. Ross, what I really suggest is that as far as the changes that you want to make, specifically for the sophomores, as far as bumping that plan up, that's 100% fine. And if you have the data, which you guys are saying that you do, that suggests that data-driven reasons are why you want to raise the sophomore plan, that's fine. But for the current sophomores, you're telling them to buy something that they had no idea that they were going to be purchasing. I have friends, and myself included, who did not budget for this. And it's not like we're talking chump change. And Chuck, I understand what you said before about how current, it might come to be equal because sophomores are then buying their own food on the side. But that's I believe that is an assumption.
It is an assumption.
And so I think that what I am proposing that you guys do is that for next year's sophomores, you don't mandate, you make it an option, that's 100% fine, but you don't mandate them to purchase this higher plan. For the future, you can, because prospective students should know what they're getting into. Prospective students should know that if I come here, when I'm a sophomore, I'll have to buy this. When I was a prospective student, I was not given that opportunity because it didn't exist at the time. I didn't know that I would be paying for this. So I suggest that if you do implement this, maybe your proposal to the committee that decides the budget and the board of trustees, maybe you suggest that the first year of this coming program will be, so for next year's sophomores, does not include that. And they can just go along with the Block 100, whereas the next year they're required to buy the B12. And one other quick thing on what Bobby said. Now, I admit, and I know that this is your intention, but sometimes with the student price per meal, it can come off as a bit disingenuous. And again, I know I'm not being to accuse you of anything, and it's not supposed to be intentional. But what I have a strong fear of happening is that with the All Access 7-day plan, kids are going to see, prospective students are going to see $9 a meal, which it's $500 more for the student price, but that sounds like a really good bang for your buck to be paying $9 as opposed to $11.60 for a meal. But what students don't realize until you get here is that you're going to go nuts if you're just having TDR all the time, if you're not able to diversify with only 5 meal exchanges. And so I think what's going to happen here is that prospective students aren't going to realize what current students realize, that TDR isn't enough to sustain existence. Right. That without proper meal exchanges, you can't sustain existence.
So as I said though, Max, that All Access was a request. Mm-hmm. There was a request. That was a request for that meal plan, to have it all access from our athletics department, which is why it exists there. So that is not a required meal for anybody, it's an option for someone who wants to go into an all access type meal plan. It's not something that's mandatory for anybody or anything like, I know when we had some of the focus groups talked about the all access being for first year and second year students. We took that away, but we do have a group that's saying this is something we want and need. And so we're trying to look at how do we serve the community, okay? In terms of meal plans, and I have to really be really very, very transparent about this, is that meal plan prices, what you may have seen when you came and viewed a school, is I don't care what school you go to, AU or any place else, it's not going to be the same price that you pay by the time you actually get there and become a sophomore, even a freshman or a sophomore, because meals plans are always constantly changing. They're being evaluated just like we're doing now, based on needs, based on what's happening, what is new in the market, what is going on. So, and I want to say that because that's going to happen. It's going to happen. That's why personally, it's not even a good thing to even quote what price. You can give an average of what the price is, but the price is going to change. Price is going to increase. It's not going to be the same if somebody comes for preview day and looks at a meal plan, it's not coming here for 2 years, what it looks like. So I want to just caution, say that to really be fair. I wasn't here, but even now moving forward, it will change, and that's what I always tell people that this is our current pricing as of today.
So I just want to make sure to recap. Max, what you're suggesting is somewhat what you're suggesting, right? I've been told more than 5 levels. You're suggesting that the sophomores, they should be looking at the 100 block with the 400 EP. The sophomore should be what the requirement should be, and not the 12 weeks. Is that what I'm hearing? Is it 12?
Yes. And
Between 12 weeks and 100.
And if you guys
That's what I'm
strongly
hearing.
believe that the 12 week is absolutely necessary to implement in the future for sophomores, and that's fine. But it's just kind of swinging it on current freshmen right now. I didn't expect it. So for down the road, although I don't agree with it, if you guys think it's necessary, it's within your prerogative. It's just I don't believe that it's fair to students currently to kind of swing that extra sizable increase on them.
Right. No, and that I respect and understand. Yes.
Jacob.
Mr. Smith, thank you for being here. I actually didn't introduce myself earlier. I'm Jacob. I'm the editor for the College of Arts and Sciences. I just had a concern and perhaps a suggestion, another suggestion. Perhaps. Okay. My concern is I understand, people have to be having these meal plans and everything, but a concern that I have is that there aren't many options open, particularly on Saturdays. And I can see perhaps maybe that's something that you probably all have heard. I can say probably, I can list just on one hand the amount of options. So I'm wondering what is being looked at, to maybe extend the hours of Freshie or Pine Fry or Global Fresh for the weekends. And then maybe a suggestion that I was thinking perhaps you might entertain is some kind of way where if you have extra swipes in particular at the end of the semester, could you give those to a friend? Because I know at the end of last semester, I ran out of swipes and I was relying on other friends to swipe me in who had extra swipes. And I know that it was a little inconvenient to kind of have to coordinate with them. So perhaps if the mantra is meal plans that fit on your life, would you consider having an option where somebody could transfer other swipes to other people?
So let me take the first one in terms of opening. So, we're kind of tied by, and again, space, we're tied in dining that some things we can't open because, Tavern gets used for student activity things or the marketplace gets used for stuff. Where we have been able to, like this semester, we never used to open on Sundays Global Fresh. So now it opens on Global Fresh. We've expanded hours for, TDR is consistent from 7 in the morning till 9 at night. We've added some hours to Freshies on Friday, so it doesn't close at 3, it closes at 6. So we try to look at where we could make those changes to do things. We are kind of looking and trying to figure out what can we do, to be able to, and it's funny you bring this up because I was just had this conversation when we were coming over here with Chuck, is what things can we do and how can we, have a more variety other than the TDR, Subway, Pod, and Starbucks open on the weekend. What things can we do? So we're looking at it, but again, we don't have those locations to be able to do it.
And I just wanted to say, just two additional things on very quick, they're just statements. Thank you very much, because I did see that their hours are extending, and I will say that as somebody who sometimes gets out of class at 8 o'clock, I really do appreciate that, so thank you. And the last thing I just want to say to all the senators in the room is, I'm loving all of the excitement and questions. I do want to share with everybody a great quote from our president, Sylvia Burwell, hashtag my president. Change takes time and change takes many hands. And so we have to remember that this is the first time since I've been a senator we're having actual people from the one-car dining services come and speak to us. I hope that this isn't the last time. I hope that you can share the final proposal with us, and hopefully you'll be listening. But thank you for being here, and I think it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, tensions are high, and we have many concerns and everything. And I hope that at the next meeting we can have members of the public be here, so that they can also listen to it. Because I can imagine it's a little frustrating when you're trying to get feedback and not everybody's coming out, but people have many opinions.
Yeah, but that's the nature, and my role here is to work on providing that program to you, and to also be your voice between what needs to happen from our partners that are doing things, making sure it's right, and also to the voice back to the university and what things should we do to make things work right. So that was about the hours.
And then just the swipe transfer.
Okay, swipe transfer. So we've had a lot of discussions. We're looking at, I'm not going to say we are looking at options. I'm actually going to be looking at a couple of, attending a couple of things to look and see what's happening out in the market with other schools in March, to be sitting on some things, and also trying to figure out how do we use our technology to make that be able to happen. So, it's not something that we've closed a deaf ear to. And I will tell you, hopefully, after I come back in March from my training or discussions with other schools, because it's not just at AU, this is happening at other places, but what is going to be the best thing of how we can make this work.
Lucas?
Yeah, my name's Lucas. I'm filling in for Wayne, and I also want to thank you guys for being here. So my question was, the reason that you're making students pick the weekly 12 meal is because you'd be afraid that if there's an option, too many students would choose like the low cost one. I guess there wouldn't be enough money up front. So I was thinking of a compromise. If you would still require the students to pick the plan that you suggested, maybe there could be like an appeal process for some students if they had severe like dietary restrictions, or like it was just not like financially like feasible for them. Maybe you could have 95% of the sophomores on campus, or 90% go with the $2,500 plan, and then maybe like 10% or 5% could pick if there was like an actual situation where that was the only realistic option.
So Lucas, we do currently have an appeal process. So if a student has a dietary need that we truly can't meet, and I say that because dining, we're not medical doctors, we're not, they can go to access, the access office, go through there, they will evaluate, they come and evaluate what we offer in dining. We work with them so that there is an appeal process. We also have, if it's a religious reason that we can't meet it, there's an appeal process. And I do say that, there are times that I meet with students, and if there's appeal for other reasons, we do look at it. So, it's not like the appeal process currently exists. Okay, so we do have that. And, we try to work with everyone to find out what is the best module for students.
And to comment on what we're going to make students do, I do think this is a propose and feedback sort of thing. So for those who are part of the focus group, this is dramatically different than what you saw in the focus group, largely because of the feedback we got. We actually came up with a 12-meal-a-week plan, thinking that was going to be a good basis to go off of, and we'll use the feedback we get from everyone here. And if it turns out that's not, or if it turns out we need a couple of years to roll it out, then I think we'll do that. But I think I don't want to make it seem like, as we were discussing the total financial picture, that one decision like this is going to blow the whole thing up. But there is a larger discussion that has to happen. But at the end of the day, we're supposed to be having. The reason we're here, and the reason you guys probably, this is the first thing you're seeing, is we believe we're supposed to be advocating for students, and we're partnering with a service provider, right? So Anne-Marie, we recruited Anne-Marie to come in because we think she's the best at what she does in the country. Anne-Marie was at NYU, which is a very, very large campus, and has done great things she's done here. What she hasn't been able to do necessarily is get as much feedback as we'd like. So this is kind of what we're trying to do right now, is get as much action feedback from students as we can to go back and say, all right, this is what we're going to believe in. This is what we can actually provide. Right? So nobody was super happy about what happened in the fall. We can address that corporately, but yeah, it wasn't great, right? So we're all trying to address that.
Curtis?
Yes, Henry, thank you for coming. And I'm going to be real brief here. What happened to the All Access 5-day? And I was just wondering, could like the weekly 12 plan change into a 5-day All Access? Or is that not?
So the All Access 5-day actually went away based on the meeting that we sort of had talking to Max and a couple of other students about all access for TDR, looking, being very transparent with the problems that we saw in TDR. And because originally there was an all access 5-day that was going to be the option for first and second year students. Based on that conversation, it was like, okay, we understand that there were some issues, there were some problems in TDR this past year. And you may be right, that we shouldn't make it a mandatory, but it should be an option that's there for someone who wants to have an all access.
And also, what company is going to administer this plan? Because the school contracts a company, and that company subcontracts workers. So I was wondering, you said that Aramark?
So Aramark is our service provider here at AU. They would be the ones who, actually would be administering the plan. Well, they would be providing the product and the food. Okay. One Card and Dining Office, we're the ones that puts the plans, we're the ones that add everything to the students based on their eligibility requirements. So that is from and within the One Card and Dining Office.
So based on that, will the plans be subject to, I guess, a negotiation between American and Aramark, or does Aramark say, we're charging $10 per person, per meal, and the school has to, make that threshold to meet such a.
So this is kind of a larger budget issue. So AU charges students for a meal plan. Okay, let's be super transparent. AU has a price that they charge students for the meal plan. Aramark provides the services we get, and there's a cost for AU. One could argue in this space that whatever the difference has dramatically gone down in the last 4 or 5 years across the board in the country, right? What used to be seen as a thing for auxiliary services, whether it's a bookstore, whether it doesn't matter. So yes, there's a price difference in what we charge and what Aramark costs. We are bearing all the changes. The university is bearing all the changes. So when we say we're holding pricing, I can assure you that nobody else is holding a price in an open free market, right? So there's an increase that's going to come. But AU is holding the price in terms of what it's going to charge students.
Yes, thank you. And I was wondering, so as director of auxiliary services, Sean here mentioned megabytes, and that's not AU dining. I understand, but that's one dining location on campus that all of a sudden it's gone.
Correct.
And that's very valuable real estate for the university and potentially for AU dining in the future. So I was wondering, for I guess the foreseeable future, will megabytes remain closed?
As far as we know, there's no active active plan for Mr. Garrett to reopen.
due to the health concerns.
You'd have to ask Mr. Bear about why, but we don't have an active plan for it.
Okay. Technically, both of your times are up. So unless there's any pressing, Terry.
I just like to get an update on the survey, which we're on the ground. It's like the stats a bit, it's how it's going on, because that would be, then you would hear student emails and stuff, which what we want to be. So that was just my question, like, what's the update on the survey? Is it gonna happen? Oh, just an update.
So yeah, so the survey, I know we did send over to you guys, because based on our discussion, we were gonna send the survey to you guys and you guys are gonna work on getting the survey out.
Yep.
So we did send those questions over to you. And I know then
We sent back. provide-
Right, Matt sent back
we
feedback
did a 9-question
and,
survey.
yeah,
We
did.
met for a couple hours and
Mhm.
we came to that. Trevor, I can actually go that sheet right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then, that's what too, and again, we did look at those questions and have them ready. We went on break and came back and, right now we've been sort of looking at the meal plan, but we will get that survey out. We just have to get the right avenue and probably through, Dr. Oz office to get the survey out.
Yeah, and we just felt, that we provide some helpful input to find the survey. So we feel very comfortable with the survey that we sent you. I think we finalized 9 questions. And we think that you would have much greater success when it comes to the dissemination of that survey too.
Right, because when we did look at it, one of the things I looked at when I looked at the survey, I know we had quite a few open-ended questions. And when they're open-ended questions, being able to go through and sort through and read them. So we need to look at how many open-ended questions and can some of those open-ended questions be changed a little bit?
So what I would like to see is, once it's good that it's having the survey disseminated, to all undergraduates, certainly residential and all undergraduates. But as we discussed, it would be also helpful that, through your help as the Senate, it would be helpful if you can use social media platform and others to kind of help push it out. Same thing with RHA, so that they can be as high a response rate to the survey as possible would be great. So we'll check on that.
And we want to make sure too that when we send it out, some of the surveys that we do use our partner, we use their platform, and we don't want to do that. We want it to be a true AU survey and not coming from Aramark or within that branding there.
Pressing question?
Yes.
Can I ask unanimous consent for 2 more minutes since I already ran out of my time?
Is there objection? Okay.
Thanks. Just really quick to clarify, these meal exchanges, are those new? In other words, like right now, if a student has meal swipes, is there a weekly limit to how many meal swipes they can use to buy things at Einstein's, for instance?
No. So right now, the way it works, if you have a 175, you can use those 175s as swipes or meal exchange. That's how it works. Or if you have 100, it's all the same right now. Yeah.
So these meal exchanges then, it's fair to say that they're a new restriction on how.
For the all access, yes. Only for the all access.
Okay, so when it says NA here, does that mean like Block 100 has NA for meal exchange?
So
does that mean that you can use all 100 of those swipes at Einstein's?
Correct. You can use it any place you want.
All right.
Right.
Okay, that clarifies.
So the only one that has a restriction is but the number of meal exchange.
There's all access and weekly 12.
No, well, the weekly 12 is it's the 12 meals per week. You get 12 meals you can use anywhere. So it doesn't have a restriction. It's just the 12 meals per week.
All right. And with that, I want to return really quickly to these economies of scale that we talked about last time I asked questions. So just to get us on the same page, the logic behind requiring freshmen and sophomores to pay this price of $2,500, which is an increase for sophomores, as we discussed. The logic is that if there's 2 pools of students who have meal plans and students who don't, if you allow more students to move out of those meal plans or to have less expensive meal plans and move out of that pool, the concern is that the students in those pools are going to have to pay higher prices per meal, right? Okay, so I'm wondering, can you explain why you view that as something that needs to be avoided? And Like, what is
Yeah,
the
so
logic
the-
against allowing students to go to the cheaper pool, knowing that the students who choose to remain in the more expensive pool, it will get more expensive still?
Well, I think to your point, there's price per meal is something that we hear feedback from parents and students that they're trying to control. And so if we increase the price per meal, we do believe we're going to get feedback that the assumption of value or the value they're getting per meal isn't what they think it should be. And so proposing what we proposed in terms of 12 meals a week wasn't done in an effort to increase revenue for that second year. We looked at it, Emery and I looked at it as how many meals a week could the students, we think the students should have. If we went back to the Block 100 plan, the financials would be the same as they are this year and look the same. There is no reasonable financial benefit that we're looking at to, in your mind, increase the meals per week. That wasn't a part of the discussion. The proposal was really, how many meals a week do we think students want to eat? Okay, do we think this is a good number? Again, from a proposal standpoint, we were asked to put together what we thought was the best meal plan for first and second year students. If we go back to the Block 100 as the minimum for sophomores and the weekly 12 is for freshmen, we probably will look at different pricing. I don't know yet, but we go back and look. To your point, every time we change it, the pricing comes out. Right. It's just reality, right? So if we went, and it'd be the opposite if we made every student all access and 5 meal exchanges, the price would drop significantly for all students. So it's just a mix.
And my last question would be, realistically, do you think that you might entertain lowering the requirement for sophomores so that they don't have to pay $2,500 and they have to pay some smaller amount of money? Since this is a proposal, like you keep saying, do you think that is something that you might change, or is that kind of set?
What? Nothing is set.
No.
Okay, but I imagine that there are some things that are more likely that you could change than others. So if that is the case, do you think that this $2,500 requirement for sophomores, is that like 80% sure or some
I would
smaller amount?
say that it's 74%. There's no, in reality, if we get a feedback from everybody we go talk to that's way too much money and it's just not something that everybody was prepared for, I think it would be a mistake as administrators to roll that out anyway, right? Because we'd be forcing something that the students didn't want. And we thought it was a good idea, right? So I'm the one that's going to stand up and say, I thought this was a great idea, nobody wants it, but we're going to stop it. It wouldn't dramatically affect anything.
So to answer your question, I mean, 2 things I will say here, and I'm going to say this, and this is part of my discussion that I'm just going to put on the table. Part of the reason why the team is here, and part of the reason I'm sitting here, and you will see us more often than not, is because we're really trying to figure out and get to the place now that I'm in my role a little bit over a year and a half now. It's going to be a year and a half. I really want to get face time with students on a lot of key issues. So this is one of those things that has come up. And as we're getting feedback, our interest is not to come and just get the feedback and have, bring depth to it. So we are really trying to get the pulse of students on where they stand on these different pieces. Coming out of this conversation, we've heard a couple of things. One is, this is a significant increase in cost to students and it impacts students. We've heard that. 2, we've heard we'd like to get a choice and an option. One option is 12, another option is 100 plus the 400 blocks. We will take that into serious consideration, is the answer to that. The third thing we heard as well is that for students who have dietary needs and dietary restrictions, we want to see more options that are available to those students. In our different facilities, we've heard that one. We've also heard that it's important to us as students being on campus and or off to look at the service hours and make sure that service is available on time when we are in need of those services. So those are at least 4 concrete areas of feedback that we've gotten input from and that will be taken into serious consideration. The hours of operations have already been extended. We need to do an analysis of it and we're going to need to get feedback from it of how it's working. Because also it's really important that I think as students you understand that from the employee's perspective and everything, every time you make a change, like the change that's been made, it has impact and implications. Part of it is making sure we keep the cost down for all of you as students. So if, for example, hours of operations have been extended, but they're seeing no traffic, then it will have to change. Or if hours of operations have been extended in one area, but that's not the area of interest, we need the feedback so we know what's the best deployment of staff and resources that work for you as students. So that's why I'm leaving here saying we've gotten those 4 very concrete feedback. And so to the question, Bobby, of is this going to be under serious consideration? The answer is yes.
Okay. In respect for everyone's time, I think I'm going to cut this discussion off just because we've already been here for a little bit more than an hour. If you have additional questions, where should they email them to?
They can email to A Powell. I'll pass out my card to everyone. I'll leave them here. And you can get my card. Know that the last Wednesday of every month at 3 o'clock in TDR, the Dining Advisory Board meets. That's an opportunity for you also to come or send information ahead of time, because that gives a group of students a chance to talk and have more questions about that. But you can, I'll leave my cards here.
Awesome.
And you can
And
email
just
us.
also as a reminder is that, on Thursday at 6 p.m., the goal is to have a community open forum that will be at 6 p.m. on Thursday to get feedback. The same way that, Anne Marie will be working with RHA so that on February 11th in the residence hall, that is also open to residential students to come over and get feedback. We want to get as much feedback and as concrete feedback as we've gotten today from students about what are their proposals.
Trevor, I have a question for that if you don't know the answer. Just if you guys can tell us your time frame, timeline, as far as when you have to have your final proposal for when you submit this to the board of trustees. I think that that would be beneficial to whole bar taking action on this.
I mean, the easy answer is mid-February.
Yeah, because the board of trustees meet at the end of February.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Also, Trevor, I'd like to thank Dr. All, Charles Smith, and Anne Marie Powell for the TDR Stress Busters last semester. So
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great. I agree with Curtis on that one.
Well, I mean, the credit goes to the folks who are in dining and auxiliary services. But again, I think the point that is being made is provide your feedback.
Mm-hmm.
It is not going into a black hole. So keep providing those feedback and input. And then also again, we will come as needed to the Senate and everywhere else that's needed.
As I tell students, as you see, I'm here on a Sunday. I have no problem being on the weekend and being in. I'm usually around anyway, just sort of observing. I like to do pop-ups myself just to see what's happening in dining. Sometimes I just ride through the tunnel to look and see who's in where at different hours to see how things are going. So, we're here. I can speak for everyone else, but I am here to be your voice. But I can't be your voice if you're not talking to me about it, and it's got to be everyone involved in it. So thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you. Okay. We don't want to keep you too much longer, but I think it would be beneficial just if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself and then telling them a little bit about what you do and how they can use your expertise and your assistance. Thank you.
No, first of all, thank you, and thanks to all of you for having us here. I am Dr. Fanta Abin. I'm the Vice President for Campus Staff and Inclusive Excellence. My portfolio really includes sort of the student experience piece. It's probably the best way to frame it. And sort of part of the thing, now being in my role again, like I said, September made it a year. It feels like it's been 5 on many levels as we're trying to run as fast as we can. And a big part of really my role is to figure out how we get more face time between different parts of the campus and students, and to really get feedback and input in timely ways. And then part of my role is then to make the translation that is needed to help move that along. So it's part of that. It's in that spirit that I wanted the dining program team to come and really have the conversation with you here today, and to get your feedback and input around the proposal, and to make sure that we are moving in the right direction. And so, as the Senate proceeds, I know I've had the great opportunity of working with Trevor, but as the Senate proceeds, if you find that there are issues that are coming up and you want someone from any areas to be able to come and have FaceTime with you, Trevor and others will get in touch with me and we'll make sure that they have FaceTime with you. So that's really one of the main things that I want to be able to do. I know that there are resolutions and things that come up often, and I think Max has heard this from me, so I'm saying it to the rest of you all. Part of, to get to change and to get to progress really requires all hands, as we've talked about, but it also requires everybody doing their homework. So if you're working on something like counseling center, like health center, like any of those pieces, my first advice to you is to figure out who's the point person and have the conversation and get all the information that you need so that you're coming at it from an informed perspective to then identify what the core problems are so that we can actually get to solutions to those problems. And my door is always open, and I will always direct you to who might be the right person that can get you the information and so forth so that we can make sure that your work is as effective and as impactful as your representing students as it can be.
Awesome. Any quick questions for Dr. Or Bobby?
My name's Bobby Sitzman. So something that the student government has been working on now in its third academic year, so it's a very long-term project, is the student rights cards, which I know you're familiar with. But just for everyone else who's new, the original plan was that this is a project that CASE is working on where they have lists what students' rights are in interacting with the university. And the original plan is to put them on the inside of dorm doors. And it's not finished right now, obviously, the project is still underway. And when I talked to our case director, Surem, about that, he tells me that, it's underway and we're trying to work things out with the Office of Campus Life. So can you update us on what is the status of the students' rights cards and what remains to be done in order for them to be finally put into place?
Sure. So I had meetings with Surem. Where we last left off was when it first came up, and I was working with Will. The first one, we got in the elevator of the areas that I oversee, the Shipping Neighborhood Center. We also then with Surem talked about can it be available in some of the other buildings and facilities. And I talked to the building managers. Some of our facilities do not allow anything in elevators. However, they were willing to work with me to have it at least on bulletin boards in their buildings, whether it's CoGuard or SIS and so forth. So the next step is, I said to Surem, I need for you to take a look at the student rights card and make sure that it's up to date. Because one of the other things with initiatives like with students is making sure that as people move out, that the information is actually accurate. And so we need to make sure that there's a designated point person that's looking at that. So I said, can you please take a look at it and make sure that it's accurate? And once it's accurate, then we can work with the building managers in those areas where they have bulletin boards and they've offered to do that. So that was the second thing. The third thing in relation to the residence hall, we talked about it and what would be the best avenues and so forth, and whether or not there are bulletin boards that may be in each of the halls, or whether there's a designated bulletin board that could be made available, not only for the student right cards, but other information that student government and others want residents to have, so that students know that there's a designated bulletin board where you can take a look at it in each of the buildings that would have the student right cards or any key information. So that's the next part of the project, if that's what we have.
Just really quickly, sorry if anyone else has something to say. The plan, I don't know how far Will got in terms of implementing this plan, but the original proposal for the students' rights cards. And at some points he said to the undergraduate senate when he was here that he gave us a date when they were going to be put up, and then for some reason or another that turned out to be incorrect. But that original plan was that they would be on the inside of dorm doors. Is that possible?
No, Will and I had the conversation with him. I was very frank with him that would not be the case behind the doors of each. Similar to, as we talked about it, the parallel that Will gave me was the cards that we have around sexual assault and the fact that it's on bathroom doors. We explained why that was the way it was, and also said, you know what, we need to be careful about all the things that we decide to do around those doors, and we need to have really some parameters with which to work with. And so where we left off with Will was, what is the real intent? If the real intent is to disseminate information and have it readily available to students, then we need to think about what are all the avenues that we can use to do that. I said, you looked at the fact that we've had that for sexual assault, but there's a reason why that is the way it is, and there's a reason why it's on bathroom doors. There's enough research that we've done to understand that. But on the doors of each of the residents, we talked about that would be a no-starter. But we could have it in the buildings, because that's the aim, that's something that we could do. The same way that I would be happy when I send the community, sort of newsletter to students at the beginning to welcome them as new students and everything. I would be happy if on the website there's a link, to have that as a link as well, so that it's on there along with the code of conduct and other things. So I'm more than happy to look at all the different mediums in which we can disseminate information, including places where students are likely to be, like the academic buildings. That those are things that I would be more than happy to consider and would be happy to work with them. So that's what we've done. Yeah.
Jacob?
Dr. On, my name is Jacob. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for being here on a Sunday, giving us your time. One of the greatest gifts you can give somebody is your time, so I thank you for being here. My question is just really simply, if you're looking for a point person, is there a place on the university website? How do you suggest we go about making sure that we're going down the right avenue? So let's just say, for example, if I want to do something with the counseling center, is it as simple as going to the counseling center? Is there a centralized resource where, if these are the sorts of things I want to tackle, this is the person I can talk to?
Sure, great question, and thanks for asking that. I would say that the simplest way to get access is to email the director of that office. And if you'd like to copy me on it, by all means, feel free to do so. But that is the best avenue, is to really go to the head of that unit, introduce yourself, and ask and be able to provide them with what are the parameters for you'd like to meet. Is it a specific issue? It is clear enough, getting clear to all the directors within campus life, that as we hear from students around different pieces, that spending time with students to hear their perspective really matters, and the directors will be the right avenue to get that done. Yeah. And if you go to the Office of Campus Life website within each of our units, you'll be able to see the staff, and then it'll indicate who's the person who's responsible for that area. Yeah. The other thing that also I know Trevor and I talked about as well, and I'm happy to consider that, is when the Senate first gets into session at the beginning of each year, we could provide you, for example, with a list of key resource people for key areas, so that it's not just in Campus Life, but in other places. So that if you have questions about who's the right person for AU Central, who's my right person for financial aid, that the Senate has access to who the right people are, and will probably provide some kind of resource information, and we'll be happy to produce something like that if that's helpful.
Yeah. You should have that sheet already, because Dr. Nara put it together last year. If I can send it out again, but it's a huge department contact sheet with everyone that you should reach out to for each department.
And as new names or offices come up, we're happy to update that sheet, so that you make sure you have the right contact people who can get you the information that you're seeking.
Thank you.
All right, anything else currently?
But thank you for your work, and again, I look forward to the partnership, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, you're representing constituents, and we want to make sure that you feel like your work is of value. And so whatever my office can do to help facilitate that, that's why I'm here. So I look forward to future partnerships.
Great, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Trevor.
Have a good one.
Yes.
All right, moving on to our next business item, Directive 1819-002. The sponsor would like to speak on the bill. Directive.
So, directive. Last year, around this time, the Undergraduate Senate put in a rule for student government that every year the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which just at that point had been established as a permanent position, and still is, of course, would conduct an internal survey of AUSG members to look at what is our internal diversity in ethnicity, class, major, gender, and so on. That the first report of that survey is up on our website. If you go to ASG.org and then under government, executive reports, I think it's the most recent report. But anyway, there were a few problems with the way Raphael, I think, analyzed the data, and some of them come from the questions. This specifically looks at gender, which is one of the categories that the Senate asked, or rather stipulated, the director to collect information on. There was the question on gender in the inaugural survey had five options rather, for people to choose. They could choose male, female, transgender. Four options: male, female, transgender, or other. And in other, they could enter whatever response they want. However, I think that doesn't accurately capture information with regards to whether people are transgender or cisgender or what have you, because obviously male and female aren't the same category as transgender and cisgender, because there are transgender and cisgender people who are male and transgender and cisgender people who are female. So this directive directs that the next survey has two questions on that front. One to determine male or female or other, and the other to determine transgender, cisgender, and so forth. So if there's anything that I can explain, let me know.
Sean?
So just to clarify, cisgender is gender.
Yes.
Okay.
Other questions? Seeing none, we'll move into discussion. Discussion on the directive. Sean?
I'm just going to say I support the directive just so that it accounts for all the different identities that we will have in student government, and it provides that option for students to denote their preference.
Other discussions? Tyler?
What's this information used for?
Well, last year, you can read the bill on the ASG website that established it, and it's determining like what, for our own purposes, how diverse an organization are we, and also if we want to make sure that we're as representative of the campus as possible. Is there any place where we're lacking, where we don't have anyone representing this part of the campus in the whole organization of student government that informs outreach efforts? So one conclusion that the first survey drew was that student government really highly overrepresented students in school public affairs. So as far as outreach efforts go, that can inform student government that the majority of students who are not SBA majors, we need to reach out to them more. So that's what the survey is for.
Other points of discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote without objection. Hearing no objection. All those in favor of adopting Directive 1819-002 as written, say yay.
Yay.
All those opposed, say nay. And the chair of the ayes have it, and it is adopted. Any other new business for the Senate? Seeing none. Moving to old business. Seeing no old business. Moving to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak at this time? Seeing none. Moving to the good of the order. Any executives for the good of the order? Seeing no executives, we'll move to senators for the good of the order. Any senators? Jacob.
I just wanted to say today was really productive. It was a long day, but I'm really pleased with all of the conversations that were had, and definitely a lot of the passions. Often the process can be really slow. I'm just going to be really honest. As being a senator last year into last semester and into this semester, it's a slow process. It can be somewhat aggravating, but it is intentionally slow so that as new issues arise, as new things sort of come about, we can adjust. That being said, I think that the advocacy that's going on is really fantastic. All of the ideas that are coming about are great, and I'm hoping that we can continue these kinds of strong relationships with people like Dr. Ah and Anne-Marie Powell, who really, for the first time since I've been here, really seem to want to be getting the feedback, really seeming to want to understand what the students are saying. I mean, I didn't know that Anne-Marie Powell used to work for NYU. NYU is a huge school. It's in New York City, and that's very expensive. So I believe that if anybody can do it, it's her, and I'm really excited by this partnership and understand that there's some frustrations, but I think we're on the track to have a strong partnership and a strong future going forward.
Any other senators for the good of the order? Sean?
I know Piper wanted to mention it, but I realized she had to leave. She has established the ad hoc fund committee. I believe Thierry is also on that. So if anyone wants more information, just to reach out to either of them for that.
Yeah.
Fun is full of unity now! Exclamation point.
Yes.
Is it? Okay.
Well-
Okay. I wasn't sure.
There's conversations happening.
Okay.
That's a concept, but
Okay.
what title?
Well, let's wrap up those details so I can actually put it in writing.
Yeah, sure.
Max.
It's fun and acronym too.
That's what full unity now. That's fun.
I like that.
Thank you, Max.
Something I just want to say, obviously, here I'm kind of passionate about this. It's kind of my bread and butter, no pun intended. But I just want to say, if you also care about freshmen and rising sophomores potentially having to be forced to pay an extra $2,000 next year, please tell like anyone you know about this. Like the more people that find out that this is what the university wants you to do, no student wants this. Like, you know, they're no longer here. I think we can all agree that 1 in every 200 students would want something like that and would be willing to pay an extra $2K for that. I think we can all agree about that. We've all been here. We're all, you know, tightly pressed for money when it comes to paying for ridiculously expensive AU. We don't want to spend that. So please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell people you know what the university is planning on doing. I know there's a proposal. The more kids who know about this, the more backlash they'll receive. The more backlash they receive, the less likely they are going to be to act in this direction.
Terry.
I also want to encourage you guys to attend the the meal
Dining advisory board.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Those are always also there's also other students there. You can also get to see what their opinions are, what they hear, and it's also more of like personal, like more so yeah, just tag along, come along if you have time. It's really good.
Bobby.
I want to give a shout out to Dan, who comes to all of our meetings to report for the evening.
Woo! All right.
Also, just a good story about Val's progress update that we got last weekend. So he sits through the whole thing, even when I'd say majority of our members here do less at Senate meetings than Dan does. So
Bobby, do you know where Dan's from?
The Berkshires.
Yeah, where I'm
I
from.
mention that all the time.
You know where I'm from?
I do. Yeah.
Where?
You're from the same place.
Yeah. All right.
Other senators for the good of the order. Okay. One last thing, or I guess a couple last things. One, keep up on the office hours. 2, reach out to me with, you know, the ideas that you want to pursue. Like we're going to start like the semester's going now. So like, let's get some good ideas going, reach out to those directors. Like I said, I sent out that department contact sheet and like that huge email with all your introduction materials and things like that. So you can find it there. If I need to send it out again, just let me know. All the contact people are there with their emails and what they do. So we'll keep the ball rolling, get some of those things working on. I know a few of you have reached out to me about some like previous stuff that the Senate has done. Feel free to look at the past legislation and continue with that stuff because, you know, a lot of the Senate this year is new. So a lot of the stuff that was happening last year kind of just is falling off again. But if you want to pick that up, that's a great place to start. If you want to get something going or get something completed, look at those past legislations. And then 3, is there anyone that a majority of us might want to like see or interact with next week at the retreat when we have some time? Like we already had Anne Marie Powell come in. I don't know if there's like other like, I mean, I can reach out, but like, but we'll see. Okay, so I'll keep that on the possibilities. But yeah, Jacob.
I think you'd already mentioned this, but Ayana from Student Activities, hopefully she'll be.
Ayana should be there. Yep. So you'll get to meet her and get to interact with her a little bit. Sean.
For the Dean of Students, Jeffrey Brown.
Jeffrey Brown. Okay.
Students.
Yes.
Tyler.
Like just talk about like AUX.
Jessica Waters. Okay. Okay, so you said, okay, Jessica Waters. Who is it? Dean?
Oh, Jeffrey Brown.
Jeffrey Brown. Okay. Anyone else that may be of interest, Katie?
So I know a couple people have questions about magazine and how that was really, I guess the best question here is what are people, some other people.
Sylvia, don't know.
I mean, I haven't even met Sylvia yet, so we'll see if she'll respond to my email.
I'm not sure. I met her last.
Well,
Very
nice, Jacob.
Very nice woman. Now she remembers me.
Bobby?
Yeah, so I'd like something related to academics, so that could be either we have a new provost or someone from her office or someone from the faculty side. Those would be good.
Anyone else?
Counseling center.
Counseling center.
Tracy Calendria.
Okay. Any others? Okay. I will reach out to these people and I'll see if Dr. Hall can help me with reaching out to any of these individuals, see if they can come in during, I mean, at least for 15 to 20 minutes just to introduce themselves, sort of get initial conversations going, get some FaceTime. And then I'll let you know who's going to attend. And then from there, I'll ask that you, like, if you have any questions, like, prepare those in advance, just so that, actually, that's what will probably happen. So anyone that I get confirmed to come, I'll have you prepare questions in advance, send them to me, and then I'll send them all to those people, whoever can come. That way they're able to sort of address those issues up front, because we only have so much time at the retreat together. So we want to make as much of our time as efficient as possible. Cool. And I think find me a clerk. Okay. Because I've done a lot, and no. Yeah. And I'm like,
It's an unpaid position, right?
right now, yeah.
Use pastors.
It was paid because they had to do a lot, but they had to transcribe the meetings before. Now they don't. So it's a lot easier. And if you want your minutes, they're going to be slow from me if I have to do them all, but I could use another person in the office. But yeah, so I'm going to just keep hounding that. So, I mean, you have the power to do so. Cool. All right. That's everything for me. If there's nothing else, we are adjourned.